Okay. Go ahead. He may or may not be available this weekend.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. I see Charles is in the house, Ryszard, and Eric. Hi, guys. How you doing this evening? Tonight, it's going to be myself and NotJay. Some of you may have seen on the socials. My youngest graduated, and so I'm still buzzing off that. I'm very proud dad. But I spent a full 4 days with the family, Friday through Monday, driving up north, doing everything, and then driving back. So didn't have time to kind of get somebody specifically to talk about their game this week. So we're going to have a topic that we're going to talk about. What you pointing at, Chris? You can talk about your game. You always can talk about your game. Well, actually, I do want to do a deeper dive on maybe not the game you submitted. I mean, obviously, you can talk about that. But if you remember one of your first designs, we were talking about.
Oh, my first idea?
Yeah, because that's the one I thought you were going to submit. And we could talk about that because I think there were some interesting things you were trying to do in that game.
Yeah, and I think I think I can, with going over it in my brain, I think I still can figure out how to make it happen and still fit on, not necessarily a postcard, but a greeting card, as it were. So
why don't you tell everybody in chat what the topic was, or the subject of the game, and what you're trying to accomplish with it? Because I thought it was a kind of a cool concept.
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan. For those that don't know, my two favorite genres of gaming, historical gaming, is first and foremost World War II naval combat, and to an extension, driven down to World War I naval combat. Love it. I always go back to it. It's something that I've been doing for 30 plus years. My other interest, and by interest I mean obsession, is Cold War era gaming. And thus, one of my all-time favorite books is Red Storm Rising. And I listened to, I've read it 2 or 3 times in hard copy, and I've listened to it, I think 4 times now. I listen to it every year, at least once. 31 hours of awesomeness.
It's pretty long. I've got it on the phone right now, listening to it.
And I thought a cool concept for a game would be to somehow take the Iceland portion of the story, where you've got the Air Force officer and the handful of Marines escaping from the air base that just gets obliterated. Spoiler alerts, right? And how they have to trek across Iceland and not be captured by this almost division-sized force of Soviets. So it's like four guys and a civil, 4 military personnel and a civilian trucking across the. You can't say the backwoods because there's no trees in Iceland, but trucking across the back 40 and doing your best to not get captured.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, you're also running what's the word I'm looking for? You're doing reconnaissance.
Yep.
For the Americans, and you have to get to certain places by a certain time. And so my thought was, how does one go about replicating that feel
So let me ask you
in a board game?
Sorry to interrupt you, but let me ask you a question. So is this, as I remember, you have a starting point on the map, that's the airbase.
Yeah.
Then you have to go to certain waypoints. So it's not just a straight line, just get to the edge of the board, right?
Right.
So you have some sub goals or waypoints that you have to get to, like you say, with a certain amount of time, and then to an extraction point. I'm trying to remember. Was there an extraction point in the game?
So what the deal is the decisions you're making, because it is kind of, you're kind of on a railroad track, because you are stuck with dealing with, the story. You're following a story, but how you go about, quote, winning the game is by obtaining points, and you're gaining these points by getting to certain locations in a timely manner to be able to facilitate a plot point that's in the book.
Oh, okay. So you're going to try to keep it. You're going to keep it close to the story in the book, then.
Right.
Oh,
right.
Cool.
So, for instance, one of the tasks given to Beagle, that's the code name for the team, specifically the Air Force officer is Beagle. By Doghouse, which is the code name for the NATO base that they're communicating with, is need to get to a certain hill that overlooks a power plant by a certain day at a certain time to be able to provide reconnaissance information that gets fed to the Air Force and the Navy for something to happen. So in the game, you're having to make decisions on how far you're going to move, at whether it's day or night, and not how far you're going to move, but how long you're going to move before you rest.
Okay.
The longer you move without rest, the easier it will be for you to be detected by the Soviets. Because the more tired you get, the more apt you are to make mistakes.
Exactly. Excuse me.
So, skylining yourself across a ridge, whereas you're thinking, if we go this direction, it's going to be a lot faster for us. But you're not thinking that, with how the sun's located and where the Soviets could possibly be, they could easily see you running across the ridge. Whereas if you had taken this other route, it'll take a little bit longer, but you're less likely to be seen. So that's kind of the process you're going through. And each day, there is, you're rolling to see whether you get spotted by the Soviets or not. And depending on certain, like how long you've gone without rest, gives a modifier to that roll. Time of day that you're moving puts a modifier on that roll, that type of thing.
Okay.
So, you can really push it. You can make the decision, I got to get there in X number of days. I know if I can just push it, I can get there early, and that's going to give me bonus points. That gives me, be able to, win the game. Of course, at any point in time you're captured, you've lost, no matter how many points you've gained.
That makes sense.
And if, losing team members also lose, losing a team member to either injury or death does not lose you the game, but drastically reduces your points. It puts a negative on your win column.
So, how deep are into this design? Because I know when we had spoke, you had talked about it for at least 6 weeks, that you were going back and forth on how you could design it, and it spurred some ideas in my head. But where's the design set right now?
Right now, it's sitting up here in a cloud that I have not, really addressed until now. Because it did get set back. It wasn't even put on a back burner. It was taken off the stove and put into the refrigerator.
Nice.
But now talking about it, it could very easily be brought back. I've got the concept is there. It's right on the cusp of. I think I can get it to a playtest capacity.
Okay. How long? I'm gonna press you a little. How long?
How long?
From where it is now to your first play test, you think?
If I really,
if you focus,
stay very focused on it, I would say a couple of weeks I could probably have it. That being said, obviously I've got a crap ton of other stuff that I'm working on. Obviously my USS Texas is taking up a lot of my time. I'm also getting ready for Battles and Brews in July.
Okay, and that's a game call, right?
Yeah, that's it's a little 1 day game. It's a game day that's put on by Jay Wiley over in the Kansas City area. It's used as a fundraiser for March to Victory. So all of the money that they earn through that goes to, spending money. So Eric says 2 weeks. It's not going to happen, buddy. By Christmas, well, I'm hoping by Christmas, because by Christmas I need to have something to be able to put up for the game jam.
And that'll buy you time till April.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's just I've got it. It's like right there. The issue I'm having, and this is the issue I always have, is taking what's here and putting it into writing.
Okay.
Putting the rules into text. Ryszard says, "NotJay, do you need any suggestions when it comes to board games, video games that deal with patrol scale activities, organizing resistance in hostile environment?" Not for this particular project, because I'm very familiar with the concept that I'm working on. It's a war game in the sense that it is a game that happens during a war, but it's not a traditional war game where where there's nonstop fighting. Is there the potential for armed conflict? Yes. Is that the goal of the game? Absolutely not. So, it's if you look at it in the idea of World War II, and this is actually the scenario I wrote for Classified for.
Flex a little bit, because you're a published scenario. Flex a little bit. I mean, you are a published scenario designer.
Yeah, so I designed. For those of y'all that are not familiar with miniatures gaming, there is a company called Ambush Alley Games that produced Force on Force, which was published by Osprey.
Nice.
There's Ambush Games with Osprey. And not only was I a play tester for a lot of their scenario books, but I also designed a scenario for this particular book. It's called. There we go. Where are we? Yeah, right here. It's called Force 10.
I see the name.
There's me and my brother, and it's basically taking Force 10 from Neverone and putting it into a game using these rules. And this was another. I was going to use this scenario to build a game, a standalone game with, because I designed the game or the scenario as a solo play game.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, this is going to be another one that I could pretty quickly get put in there, because the Germans are basically they've got a I don't want to call it an AI, but it's basically a bot.
Hey, we're talking game design, my friend.
So yeah, I am not only am I a named playtester in several different game for several different game companies, but I'm also a published scenario designer. So yeah, that Force 10 might very easily become might come up on the Game Jam. This one might come up on a Game Jam, or my Iceland trek could get up to a Game Jam.
I find that interesting because as we spoke, there's some of those mechanics I want to build into the Coast Watchers game. So at some point we may sit down and do a design
collaboration.
Jam. Maybe we just maybe throw it on the air too, but just to kind of throw out some ideas, put some numbers down, actually start getting some prototypes and play test a few things, because I like the concept of moving from one location to another. When you're talking time and fatigue, it just screams to me, push your luck.
Exactly. And that's exactly what you're doing.
Which kind of ties into our topic a little bit. Yeah. Skill versus luck. And
yes. So there's I think what I've got is there is a balance there, because there's luck of the dice, but you can mitigate that to an extent with the modifiers based off of your choices.
Right.
And that's the big thing. It's making me make choices that will then, now the reason I like to mitigate the randomness of dice with modifiers is because if I'm rolling dice, I'm losing the game. Because I suck at rolling dice.
That is so true.
You've seen it in action.
I have. I have.
I've as those that have watched either my show on my channel or the last episode where I talked about my game a little, or if on Discord I've thrown the idea of people wanting to looking for playtesters from Ocean Thunder. I have run that game literally hundreds of times. I've played that a couple of scores of time, and I can tell you the number of times I've actually won the game is literally a handful.
And now that's a multiplayer game. That's not a solo game, correct?
It is a multiplayer game. It can be played solo. I mean, you can play.
Okay, there's a can of worms sitting there. In fact, maybe Devin in chat could help you with the solo rules. I understand he's pretty good at that.
Yeah, he is. Speaking of Devin, he has provided me with the things needed to possibly design my own lock and load tactical book or game.
Oh, really?
Title. Yeah. See, I'm of the mind that Operation Dragoon does not get enough love. Operation Dragoon was the landings in France, in southern France, in 1945, with the 36th, 3rd, and 45th Infantry Divisions going in to southern France. That opened up essentially a third front on the European continent outside of Italy, because at that point in time, Italy had already fallen. So what this did was, it was originally was supposed to have happened the same day as D-Day at Normandy. They were actually supposed to have two invasions in France on two separate sides of the nation.
Okay.
But they didn't have enough Higgins boats.
Makes sense.
They D-Day, because every landing had a D-Day.
Uh-huh.
So Tarawa had a D-Day. Okinawa had a D-Day. But obviously, when we say D-Day, we're always talking about Normandy. So Normandy, you had 5 landing divisions and 3 paratrooper divisions. So you had to have enough boats for British Canadians and 3 American divisions.
Uh-huh.
Then you had to have enough airplanes for 3 airborne divisions. Just there. Then in the south of France, you had another 3 landing divisions, and I don't think it was a full airborne division. I think it was like just a brigade, an airborne brigade, but they just didn't have enough equipment.
You heard stories of that. I think even, I may be wrong on this, but I think even when the Germans parachuted on, was it Crete, they had the aircraft make multiple trips because they had to pick up, drop off some paratroopers, come back and load up again, and they did round trips.
Right. Well, it was because Crete was close enough they could do that.
Yeah, but still, it's like they couldn't do it all in one pass. Just didn't have enough equipment, which is
so. I mean,
so when did this Operation Dragoon, or when did this
Operation Dragoon?
Yeah,
it was September 45.
Oh, it was well after.
Or September 44. I'm sorry, September 44.
Okay, so it was months after.
Yeah, it was. So I'm wanting to. I'm wanting to see if I can't do what Devin has done with. Oh Lord!
Don't break anything.
This is a heavy box, guys.
And there's Devin right there.
Yeah. Heroes of the Bitter Harvest. East Front. Oh man.
I think I picked that up on Steam. I'll have to check because I'm going to get back once things kind of settle down with the channel. I'm going to get back into doing the plays, and we're going to do some lock and load.
Yeah. So and that's another game that I think they've done a very good job of balancing skill with luck or randomness of the dice. There are decisions that need to be made as to what you're going to do, and even the game that I did put into the game jam. Yeah, it's all about rolling the dice and wanting to get the right numbers to getting the right numbers to do what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
But you're still having to make the decision: do I keep that roll, or do I and set that one or two dice aside to build this other pool that I'm not even working on yet, or do I focus on this one pool so I can move on to the next pool? Because it's a dice pool game.
Okay, well, I mean, feel free if you want to dive into it. Again, it's a game that was in the Game Jam, and it's basically sub v sub, and it fits into your Cold War.
Yeah. So basically, it's there's a couple of different games out there. I can't remember off the top of my brain the name of them, but it's like Space Cadet or something like that, where it can actually be played with. Eric's asking about the game itself.
Let me go to itch.io. Take a look. So it's silent running.
Yeah.
I'm downloading the PDF right now.
Okay. It's handy that Hey, Mike, how you doing, Mr. Berticelli? So, in Space Cadet or whatever, I think that's what it's called. Anyway, you actually can play with multiple players on a team, and you've got one guy rolling dice, and as the different dice type come up, they're specialty dice. They're D6s that are specialty dice, and like you got one guy that's the weapons systems guy, and you got one guy that's the engineer, and you got the one guy that's the navigator, and they're all rolling dice trying to fill out different parts in their pools. And so the navigator is rolling dice to be able to move the ship. The engineer is rolling dice to be able to provide additional power to other parts of the ship. The weapons officer is rolling dice to be able to load the torpedoes or build up the energy in the lasers. And
lasers? I didn't know your game had lasers.
Not mine. No, I'm talking about Space Cadet.
That's really Cold War.
No, I'm talking about
secret. I didn't even know our subs had lasers.
Yeah. And basically what happens is in that game, you're actually moving little ships around on the board. And when you get into firing position, you're maneuvering yourself to get into fire position with your shields up and being able to have your weapon ready. So when you get in the position to be able to aim at the enemy, to be able to fire all at the same time, and then the captain gets to roll to fire. My brother has actually taken that game to OCS when he was an instructor at OCS and had the cadets play the game to show how a team will work together to,
nice.
You got individual people doing their own thing, but they're all working together as a team for a single objective.
Now, is that in silent running? Did you mimic that?
Yeah, so silent running is a 1v1. It's just a single person. I don't have specialized dice. I've just got D6s. If you want to bring it up.
You know what? I don't know how to bring it up.
Okay, so at the bottom,
software.
At the bottom, you should see where it says present.
Yeah.
Click on that.
Share screen.
And you're going to click share screen.
Okay.
And then you're going to get a pop-up, and you're going to there's 3 options. Chrome tab, window, or entire screen. You want to click window and select that PDF. There you go. All right.
Alrighty. Sweet. I learned something tonight. Thanks,
Okay.
Bob.
Can you blow it up a little?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that fine?
So each player has, if I remember correctly, a dozen dice, 20 dice. I can't remember. Scroll what is needed. Yeah, 12 dice. Okay. So what both players do at the same time, because it's a race, right,
Uh-huh.
is roll dice. So you've got your detection pool of dice, your ready weapon pool of dice, and your countermeasures pool of dice. All right. So what happens is, to be able to detect, be able to use your sonar, you have to have a minimum of 6 dice that you have rolled a 1 on
Okay.
and saved in that pool area. Okay.
So I have my 12 dice. I roll some. I roll a 1, and I take it and I can put it into that part of the
Right. And then you
game board
pick
to
up
save it.
and you pick up the addition and you pick up additional the remainder of the dice and keep rolling for 1s.
Okay.
Now, if you roll a
Good evening, boss, by the way.
if you have rolled, say, a 2 or a 3, you can take that and put it into your ready weapon pool, but you can't use those dice until you've detected the enemy. So they're just sitting there, and you don't get to continue to roll them. So that's the decision you make, right?
Okay, let me ask you a question. So I have 12 dice, and there's sounds like, and I haven't read the rules, so strike me down, but sounds like there's a sequence. I have to do A, then B, then C.
Correct.
So rolling the dice to do A, acquiring the target or finding the target,
Yeah.
I need a certain number of 1. So I can roll all 12 until I collect those. And then once I've done that, I get all 12 of my dice back to roll for the next step,
to an extent, yes,
that I've assigned.
Right. So the second box here says 4 successes needed to acquire target, right?
Okay.
So what you're doing is, once you get at least 6 1s, you're then picking up those 1s and rolling those dice, looking for hold on here. It's been a couple of months.
You're not a game designer if you can't remember your own rules, boss. I mean, that's a given. Now, as you're doing that, it looks like this game doesn't take long to play, which is great. And it's probably, on the balance scale, probably more on the luck than skill.
It is more luck, but there is a bit of skill to it, because and the skill is making the decisions. Okay.
Right.
So to acquire the target, like I said, you fill the detection pool, you roll a 1 on a d6. Once you have at least 66s in the detection pool, you can attempt to acquire the target. And I'm reading the rules here. You may continue to roll dice to add more dice to the dice pool as you see fit. And the reason for that is you have to roll a 4 or better on the dice that are in your detection pool.
Okay, so I need at least 4 to make an attempt.
No, you have to at least 6 to make the attempt.
Okay, but I can have up to 12 if
right
to improve my chances. Okay, so not only so there's the luck coming in with the rolls,
right?
And since and I can see how this can be solo. You can totally play both sides, right?
You could, but again, it's a race.
If I'm rolling and you're rolling and I roll better, I might get to that point first, but then you might play better strategically, and I could waste, in theory, some of those good rolls by assigning maybe too many dice that I didn't really need to acquire, and thus wasting those good rolls. So,
Right.
so you take the luck and you can mitigate it based off of player decision. It sounds like
Right.
that's pretty cool.
as I'm rolling these 12 dice, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting ones, I'm getting twos, I'm getting threes. I can take those twos and threes while I'm still working on my detection pool. I can take those twos and threes to put them in the ready weapon pool.
But you can't re-roll them, so now you're
correct. You've locked them in. Okay, that's kind of a strat. You're strategizing there. You're hoping that you're going to be able to roll 4 4s or better on those 6 dice.
Yeah.
Because if you fail when you pick up those 6 dice and roll, let's say you only get 3 4s, 5s, or 6s, you have to start all over again.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. Nice.
Okay. Now, once you've got 4, 5s, or 6s rolled, you've acquired your target. You're now looking for a minimum of 6 2s or 3s. Again, rolling until you get to the 2s or 3s. You're not worried about 1s. Okay?
Right.
You could, though, because what happens is so once the target's acquired, you're then ready to fire. You're ready to get your weapon ready and fire. To fill the weapon ready, you're looking for 2s or 3s. Again, looking for at least 6 of them. You need 4 successes, 4 or better. It says a D5, but it should say D6. I just now noticed that. To score a hit on your target when rolling, you do not. If you do not, God, I need to go back and change some things because I'm seeing spelling errors. When rolling, if you do not have at least 4 unblocked successes, you clear the weapon ready pool and start filling again. Nice. When a weapon is fired at you, you can deploy countermeasures if you have any dice in the countermeasure pool. So that's the other thing you got to think about. Okay, I'm hunting for my target. My target's hunting for me. So
I like this. So you've taken
as I'm rolling, I need to be thinking about, okay, I need to be able to block the shots. So now I'm looking for 6s and hoping to set some of those aside to be able to roll to counteract the successes of my enemy rolling on out of their weapon pool.
Okay.
So
is this hidden? So as I'm playing against you, you don't see where I allocate my dice?
You can. It doesn't have to be. Because I'm not worried about what the fuck you're doing. Because I'm just jamming dice.
Okay, so now is it I roll, you roll? Okay,
No, it's simultaneous.
Oh, so
it's a race.
Okay, I think it can work both ways, but I kind of like that speed because now it's not like you can both roll and ponder, what do I want to do?
You don't have time.
I see that.
You don't have time.
That mechanic alone, I think, makes you have to roll to see the hexes, Hexy.
Right.
They're there. So I kind of like that because it kind of gives you the sense of yeah, there's a sub out there, and I better get them before they get me. And it's real time. Exactly. I don't know how you do that solo. That's a challenge. But, and then, hi, Telemachus. Welcome, boss.
So how countermeasures works, if you roll a 6, you can add the die to your countermeasure. And again, that's a choice you have to make. I've rolled a 6. Do I keep that 6 as a countermeasure, or do I put it back into the dice rolling pool to build whatever pool I'm working on?
So let's say I assign one of my dice. I'm trying to get a 1, but I assign it to the 2 box. And I'm rolling. Can I pull it out in another roll and roll it?
If you want to, yes.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Again, but they're snap decisions. They're snap. You don't have time.
Okay.
To think about it. You're thinking about it, but you got to go with your gut instinct.
This would be a hoot playing multiplayer.
It could, yeah.
Oh, totally, dude. you could come up with other assets, anti-submarine aircraft, for example.
So how countermeasures work is I'm rolling. I got a 6. I think my opponent is close to being able to fire, so I'm going to set that 6 aside. No minimum number of dice needed to deploy the countermeasures. Any successes you roll blocks a success rolled by your opponent when firing their weapon. If you block all of your opponent's successes when being fired on, they must not only clear their ready weapon pool, but also start filling the detection pool again as well. So that's what I was talking about.
So so what's the logic behind that?
What's that?
Is that just for gameplay, or is there something that ties that into?
So what you've done in that situation is either you've popped a noisemaker and made a hard turn and dove below or above or come up above the thermocline. You've done something to be able to break complete contact.
Got it. Okay, so it totally fits with sub-combat. I mean, it's
exactly
part and parcel of what you're doing.
So, I mean, if you are able to have enough, let's say you're in your Los Angeles class, I'm in my my Alpha class, and you've detected me, and you've got your torpedoes ready, and you're ready to fire, and you've got 6 dice to fire with, right?
Mm-hmm.
On those 6, you need at least 4 unblocked 4, 5s, or 6s, right? I have had no luck with getting 1s or 2s or 3s, but I've been getting 6s out the ass, and I have locked up. I got like 8 6s out of the 12 in countermeasures. You roll 5 out of your 6. You roll 5 4s, 5s, or 6s. If I pick up those dice and I roll just 3 successes, just 3 out of those 8, you have to start loading your torpedo again. So you remove everything out of your ready weapon pool. If, however, out of those,
and you only have 12 dice to allocate through how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different pools?
3 pools.
So the pools are detection, firing, and countermeasures.
Right.
Okay. I'm not looking at the thing. I'm just deducing.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So the detection pool, you're looking for 1s. At least 6. You have to have at least 6. At least 50% of your dice have to be in that pool before you can attempt to detect. Now, if you want to go more to give you a better, because remember, it's a 4, 5, or 6. It's a 50-50 chance. Well, if you go with the odds, you would say you need at least 8 dice in your detection pool. Because remember, when you roll those dice, if you don't make it, you're starting all over again.
Yeah. So how much playtest? Okay, so I know that you
0 playtest.
Okay.
0 playtest.
Okay, we need to get this play tested and get these numbers tweaked, because no kidding, I could see you coming up with stack cards for World War II, World War I, how you could sink ships, all sorts of things. And this,
this is a
I could see this even with because painting up a submarine model isn't that difficult. I could see you playing this game on a table with some, there we go, right? And they're probably the easiest miniatures to paint.
Yeah.
And not that you need miniatures to do this, but I could totally see sitting around having a few beers playing this. In fact, we should do that on one of our Friday night jams where we just hang out, print this up, and play test it and get it done, because I could see this. This is totally cool.
So, yeah, like I said, this is just a very base concept, kind of more than anything, is a proof of concept.
Yeah.
Because what you could do is an alpha is very fast, very quiet. So maybe you can have the different ships have modifiers. So normally I would just need a 4, 5, or 6 to detect you. But let's say you're the Soviets, I'm the Americans, and I'm in a Ohio class nuclear ballistic missile sub,
Right.
which the Soviets have never been able to effectively track, for long periods of time. So you would say that, okay, you're playing in Ohio, so it gets every detection die rolled on it is a -1. So instead of a 4, 5, or 6, you need a 5 or 6. But because it's so damn big, or the Typhoon is so damn big, to hit it, it's a 3, 4, 5, or 6.
Another thing you can do, as opposed to making that a modifier on all the dice rolled for each dice rolled, is to just give a hard number like -2. I'm just going to throw something out here. It's just a slightly different mechanic. So if I'm rolling more dice, I'm only going to, whatever the hits are, I'm only going to take a total of 2 negative, as opposed to -1 on all of my dice, for example. So I have less hits. And again, I'm just talking out loud.
Right. But
and you
I mean,
you can do both. You could have one that's all rolls -1, and another one is a finite number. You're going to take a -2 or something like that, or you get 2 misses automatically, or something along those lines.
Right. So there's 2 ways of doing it, and you can combine the 2.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Some ships can be a -2 all dice rolled, whereas other ships or other subs are, okay, I'm rolling 6 dice, I rolled 4, but I get an automatic countermeasure on this type of ship, so one of those successes is immediately removed.
Yeah, and so this design idea is blowing up. Mike says you could also throw dice colors for more combos, but also let me ratchet that up another notch. You can roll the 6, 8, 10, 12-sided dice, depending on the class of or what you're doing. You can have a ship that's got detection is much better. They roll 8-sided dice, where, to your point of they're harder to detect, maybe instead of making it a negative or whatever, that you can do the dice as well.
And the reason I went with D6s to start is that everybody has D6s.
Right. And you did this on your drive, and that's how design.
Yeah, I literally on the way home from March to Victory.
Yeah,
I had a 4.5-hour drive.
Well, dude, you did pretty good in 4.5 hours. Just laying the groundwork here.
Yeah,
but I can totally see colored dice, multiple dice. Eric got a great idea. It's kind of what I was trying to say is,
you lose dice.
-2 is you lose 2 dice, right? So, geez, I've only got 4. I know you've got this. I'm going up against you. I've got to apply more dice to my pool because I know I'm going to lose some of those, a 1, 2, 3, whatever. I mean, there's ways you could make that even.
And if 12 dice isn't feasible to do, we could bump it up to maybe 18 dice per side.
I like dice.
At that point in time, 18 dice is 1 Chessex brick.
Right, for the 6-siders.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
cool. So again, the topic tonight was going to be luck versus skill. So in this game, if we look at it through that lens, obviously the dice provide an element of luck.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
And just conceptually, with the decisions you're making, the pool that you're putting them in, with the design as it is now, I think that mitigates the luck in a lot of ways, because if I need certain number of 1s, but if I roll a 2 and decide I want to use that 2, I don't know if that's luck per se, that, hey, I got that 2, because you don't know if you needed it right away or not, right?
Right.
And so again, with the decision making, I think there's a really good balance, at least initially, with the concept of skill versus luck, right?
Yeah.
And not to get into the clouds talking about the topic, but I'm just trying to put it in the context of your game here. And first taste for me is this looks like you've done a pretty good job of balancing out. I would not call this a lucky game, because one of the things that comes into this is how quickly somebody can roll the dice and make decisions, which
Exactly.
really falls into.
So Meandering Mike says it perfectly here. Same way with poker. Right? Game of poker is look. Where do you get the term luck of the draw? Right.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely a game of skill, because you're working the table.
Yeah.
You're doing the same thing here. You're working the table. That the table being my opponent and what I'm drawing with each roll.
Oh, I love Texas Hold'em. That's one of my favorite games, especially when you're playing, even if it's a dollar pot, dollar blinds. I love the game. So one of the things you see in board games a lot, and so I'm going to make some general statements here, and these are my own thoughts and opinions, so don't yell at Chris from what I'm about to say. But I get a strong feeling that in the board game community, there is a part of that community that is really anti-luck, right? They want games to be, they don't like playing a game and have something go against them. Dice roll, card pull, whatever it is. And a term or a mechanic or a thought process that goes into a lot of board games, and I think it's because of this, what do I want to call it? No luck mindset. And that's not a bad thing. It's just, people like what they like. But you end up with what are called catch-up mechanics. Because somebody that has, if you're playing a game of skill, in the long run, those players that have skill will defeat those players who don't. And so when you have a long game, you're going to end up with a gap between somebody who's winning to almost determine who the winner is, and somebody who's too far behind or not skilled enough to catch up, and they put in catch-up mechanics. And in my opinion, if you had more luck in the game, and I'm not saying make all games based on luck, but if you put chance, like Eric's saying, then you're going to get, fog of war. You're going to get less of a need for a catch-up mechanic.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with designing a game that has no luck, that's all skill, and you throw catch-up mechanics in there. There are a lot of great games. So I'm not bashing that by any means, but in the context of luck versus skill. So I'll give you one example. And at some point, I keep teasing about my Bigfoot game. And it has some very broad swings in somebody who's winning and somebody who loses. And luck is involved, but it's not dice roll luck. It's a combination. It's more like you make a decision to look at something, and the odds maybe are 1 in 30 that Bigfoot's there. And in the game, when you find Bigfoot, when you're out in the wild, you basically lose your crap, drop everything, and run off. And it can be a bad thing because it's a set collection game. Well, set collection, work placement, push your luck kind of game. So sometimes you push your luck a little too far and you get lucky and you score big. And those players that get lucky can win the game. But the game takes about 30 to 40 minutes to play. So my thought is when you have such swings in the points and who can win, if it's under an hour, roll with it. You go to a game night, you're going to play 3-4 games. Maybe you get your butt handed to you in one. If you had fun, great, fire away. You might be the one. And again, there is skill involved, but there is, because of the luck in that game, which I think is tilted a little bit. I don't want to say it's a luck-based game, but it has more of an effect than just straight skill, even though there are combos and you can play skills. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm not one of those remove luck, I don't want chance type of games. I'm okay with it if it's a short game, short being an hour or less.
So I am definitely more of a war gamer than I am a quote unquote Euro gamer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm coming from it as a wargaming perspective. To me, you do not have a good war game if you do not have some sort of friction.
Good term. I like that term, friction.
And a lot of games, a lot of the tournament games rely on your opponent to be the only point of friction. In other words, in 40K or Age of Sigmar or Flames of War, or even Warlord games, World War II.
Bolt action?
Bolt action, that's it. I can do whatever I want with every single one of my units whenever I want. Fair enough, Vigilant.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with that. But the point is I can. The only thing that's keeping me from doing what I want to do with my forces, with each of my little squads, is my opponent. In my opinion, a better game for playing World War II is Chain of Command.
Okay.
Where I'm not going to be able to do everything I want to do with my forces because I'm limited by my command rolls, the dice that I'm rolling.
Okay, so so in something like 40K, correct me if I'm wrong, I can move all my units.
Yeah.
So I can just go, unless there's a spell or something. Okay, so I'm talking very generic because I haven't.
Right. Absolutely, yeah.
But I've got 14 stands of miniatures, and I'm going to move them around.
Yeah.
Where
the only thing
keeping me I might have 14 stands, but based on dice rolls and such, I might only have enough orders. I don't know what it's called. You can tell me here in a second.
Yeah, orders is good enough, yeah.
I can only move 6 of those this activation. Is that
right?
Okay, continue. I'm sorry to
No, that's fine. It's fine. So that's where the added friction comes in. Not only am I concerned about what you're doing to keep me from doing what I want to do, but now, and it's dependent on, am I going to be able to do what I want to do with my dice rolls? Same thing with What a Tanker. That is the primary form of friction. Is I roll 6 dice, depending on what number comes up, determines what I can or cannot do. And so another way to insert friction is variable movement rate. That's a perfect example that my brother gives is looking at a map where he was in Afghanistan. You see these big open areas. Oh, we have to get from point A to point B, which is about 1 kilometer, and we need to do that in about 20 minutes cross country. Shouldn't be a problem. Every 50 yards or every 50 meters, there's a 2-meter tall berm that you have to drive over.
Okay. Friction.
You're not necessarily. Yeah, the commander is, back at HQ saying, I need you to get from point A to point B by this time,
Mhm.
go. And you're halfway there. You're only halfway there because every 50 meters, you got to slow down, go up, go over, go down, go 50 meters, go up, go over, go down.
Okay.
It's going to take you longer. So, and it may be muddy. It
Right.
might be icy. It might
You're getting shot at.
Yeah, you're getting shot at.
That
So,
too.
That's I should be able to go as fast as I want to. Well, okay, in the Amazing Year 40,000 with hover bikes and whatnot, sure, why not? But
Yeah.
in Flames of War or in Bolt Action, not so much.
Okay.
So yeah, that's for me. There's got to be, for a game to be considered, for me, a game needs to have friction other than just my opponent.
Okay.
And actually, somebody made the comment earlier. I think it was Mike made the comment earlier. What do you prefer to see or prefer to watch? Chess or poker? What's more fun? ESPN does.
Oh, okay.
Shows poker on.
Okay.
Not chess.
I prefer to watch poker, but let me defend this a little bit. I think what one of the things that I like about Texas Hold'em. Now, I can't play it on the computer. I can't play it on my phone with fake money. It's not the same thing. You put money on the line and whole different game. You play different. You think different.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because even when I play $1 blinds, I'll just go down to Oceanside. I'll drive up to Oceanside, and there's a card room there, Ocean's 11, and because California has a lot of card rooms. I will play the one. It's the smallest buy-in, but sometimes you get a $40, $50 pot, and you start thinking, oh my God, am I going to make this call? Am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? That is drama that chess, unless you understand chess at a very high level, you don't know what the players are doing. Where even if you don't understand poker, you understand the basics of, that's a lot of money in the pot. Is he going to call or bluff? Even if you don't know what the odds are. And then they tell you what the odds are on the screen a lot of times. Right? Here's the cards, and they'll walk you through it. So it's that game is much more designed for a television audience than chess is. But I'm sure there are people that are very good chess players that get just as excited when they're like, oh my God, I can't believe he pushed his pawn in that situation, or that's beyond my skill level.
Oh, sure.
And absolutely. Now, there's a game where any luck you get is provided to you by misplays by your opponent, right?
Right.
There's no dice rolls.
So friction and luck come from your opponent.
Yeah.
So chess is a war game. It's very much a war game because there is friction. You can only move your forces in certain ways. I can only move a pawn a certain way. I can only move a bishop a certain way. So, there is friction there. A couple of things here. Actually, Hexia isn't 40K intended to be played somewhat quickly. Yeah, it's supposed to be played in like a 3-hour time frame. And miniature games are not designed to be set up and put on the table for long periods of time. It's up and down. You set it up, you play it, you take it down, all in an afternoon.
And then what New York Raider says, friction could also be introduced through machine limitations or supplies or communication issues. Yeah, those are all valid ways to add friction.
Absolutely. Queen's Gambit.
I'm going to roll it back to running silent. Is there friction other than the time constraint, which is a big piece of friction that I'm just thinking here that could be added? And we're going to just do some design right here and now. We're going to make something. How would you add friction from a player in your game?
So the friction you have that is not generated by your opponent is you having to make the decision of what dice to keep and what dice to roll.
Right.
Because again, you can't do everything that you want to do right away.
That's true. You can't.
You have to make a decision to, like Meandering Mike said earlier with poker, know when to hold them, know when to fold them. Same thing. Know when to hold those ones, or know when to hold those 2s or 3s, and know when to pull them back into the pool. Yeah, I've set those 2s and 3s and 6s aside, but I'm just not getting those ones. I need to get more dice to be able to get them ones.
Okay, I'm going to throw an idea out. You've got countermeasures, right?
Yeah.
That's defensive. Do they have offensive countermeasures? And where I'm going with this is if they do, those could be, I assign a certain number of dice that at some point I roll that makes you lose dice from one of your pools.
So there's countermeasures by definition are a defensive force.
Okay, so is there some sort of... Go ahead.
I'm deploying them in reaction to something you are doing. Even if, like, for instance, in air combat, I'm jamming oh, Mikey, you're killing me.
He's got a man cave. What do you, we can't...
Yeah, well, he's not wrong. But for instance, in air combat, you've got your F-18s up there going in, doing a strike package against an ammo bunker, right? Mm-hmm. Well, you've got your E-8Bs, EA6s going in and jamming. That could be considered a offensive countermeasure.
Right, that's what I was looking at.
But it's still defensive in the fact that it's keeping my opponent from doing something offensive to me. I see your point.
So I'll dumb. Okay, not dumbing it down for you, but for me, the countermeasures in your game are a reaction to
getting shot at.
I'm talking about something that I can do as an action against you that causes friction.
So
whatever that friction might be.
In the very base game as we have it now,
mm-hmm.
No. That being said, you had said earlier by adding different components, maybe adding ships like
mm-hmm.
surface vessels.
Right.
So a active or a offensive countermeasure could be what's called the Prairie Master.
Okay.
Prairie Master on a ship, a surface ship, is and I don't remember which is the Prairie or the Masker is this this net of bubbles that gets deployed by the ship. So you got millions of tiny little bubbles
mm-hmm.
being blown around the ship to mess up sonar from hearing your mechanical noises, figuring out what speed you're going, figuring out what size you are, etc.
Something as simple as that.
Yeah.
I mean, relatively conceptually simple, just blowing bubbles.
Yeah. And in Red Storm Rising, they do a really good job of explaining a Prairie Masker to people that aren't technologically adept, as it were.
Yeah.
So let's see here. I just pulled it up on Wikipedia. Prairie Masker is a radiated noise reduction system fitted to some Western warships, including Oliver Hazard Perry class frigates, etc., and so forth. The Masker and Prairie systems are designed to prevent the classification or identification of a warship's acoustic signature by another vessel. Let me see if I can find. Okay, the Masker portion of the system is designed to silence the vessel's engine noise from detection by threat vessels and to reduce self noise to increase the vessel's own sonar efficiency. The Masker portion typically consists of 2 bands fitted to the outside of the hull adjacent to the vessel's engine rooms. Compressed air is then forced into those bands and escapes through machine perforations to create a barrier of air bubbles in the sea about the hull, thus trapping machinery noise within the hull where it is dissipated. The Prairie part and its propeller air-induced emissions, on the other hand.
Whoa. That sounds like something Warmut could do. Because he eats a lot of beans.
Right. Yeah, in his chili.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it's fitted either near to or on the ship's propellers, and compressed air is pumped through the small holes in the edges of the propeller, as might be expected, keeping a set of small holes clear of fouling under the surface of a ship or submarine can present a problem. On submarine installations, this was prevented by running a trickle of fresh water through the system when the ship was in port. Most of the creatures that foul in ocean-going ships' hulls cannot survive in fresh water. So it also just causes... So it's really weird. On a submarine, you're wanting to keep cavitation, which is the creation of air bubbles, off of the propeller as much as possible. But with Prairie, you actually want to increase the number of bubbles. But it's all designed to not be able to figure out, I'm going to be I know I'm going to get spotted,
right?
But I don't want you to know who I am.
So, okay, I'm going to make I'm going to bring it back to Texas Hold'em. I have this theory. People you see with hoods and glasses and masks, and they try to hide tells. I use the complete opposite. I try to throw out so many tells, and I talk, I'm animated, I get worried, I laugh. I try to mix it up so much that I'm basically creating bubbles. So yeah, you get a read on that. There's maybe a tell in there, find it. And then the mindset for me is, if I'm sitting there playing the game and I'm trying not to, if I give away what might be a tell, it's the only thing on the board, right? It makes it easier for somebody who can pick up tells. So
exactly.
This approach is, I'm just going to throw so much noise at you that you got to try to figure out what the signal is in the middle of all of that.
Exactly.
So in a gaming sense, how would we represent that? Again, let's bring it back to running silent, because we're kind of designing your game on the fly here, my friend.
Sure.
How would you throw that type of countermeasure in? Would that be a pool that you throw some more dice in as part of, or is that just kind of already aggregated and abstracted through the countermeasures that you already have built into the game?
So what you would do in that situation is you would use your countermeasure pool not at the point of firing the torpedo, but at the point of detection.
Now there's your friction.
Right.
And so me as a player, I decide to use my countermeasure, even though you haven't spotted me, and that empties your pool, I'm assuming.
Right. So you could do it one of two ways.
Or I lose a dice or something like that.
Right. So you could do it one of two ways.
Okay.
You just we can keep the board just as it is now, building your countermeasures as you go, but this throws in a new curve, a new decision that would need to be made
Right.
as to when to implement it. And you could do it we could write it one of two ways. We could either say, I could, at any point in time, before you do anything with your detection pool, let's say you've got 5 dice,
Right,
with ones sitting in your detection pool. You don't have enough dice yet to roll to see if you can detect me, but I'm going to take those countermeasures and I'm going to roll, and on a 4, 5, or 6, that's how many of your detection dice have to be removed.
and it would work, in my opinion, would work best if that's a diminishing return. So using that countermeasure to not be detected is not optimal. I'm just trying to think of how I would explain that. Because you don't want it to be a 1-for-1. You want it to be a net loss of whatever the mojo is of your game, right? So we're talking time, talking dice rolls. So I have to put 2 dice maybe to if you're saying a 50% chance, that sounds like that's the case. I'm going to roll. Again, this is where luck and skill
So
kind of balance.
what you could, I think I see where you're going.
Yeah,
so
I might have to spend 2 dice for you to lose 1.
Right. So if I'm doing a preemptive countermeasure,
right,
I have to have 2 successes to remove one of your pool's die.
Yeah. Well, the 50-50 I think works because in the long run, it's going to take me 2 dice. But if I'm lucky, I can do it with 1 dice. So if I want to take and roll 1 dice, I'll scratch my head. If I want to roll 1 dice, maybe I get it, maybe I don't. It's like, I just lost a dice and it didn't affect you at all.
So where you could also do it is on a 4 or a 5, you need 2 to remove 1. On a 6, that 6 removes 1.
Okay. Then that basically means if you look at your averages, then I'm going to do rough math, you're going to need on average 4 dice to get at least a 4 or 5. Yeah. Unless you roll a 6. So you're looking, I'm going to round it down and say that that's a half of a dice roll. So instead of 2 dice, you're going to need 3 to take 1 off you in the long run. Again, I'm fudging the numbers, but we're talking about the points here.
Yeah, so roll 3 points. Yeah, I could. Now the thing is, when you roll out of a particular pool, you're taking all of the dice. You can't take a portion of the dice in that pool to roll.
Yet.
And what I mean by that is when I go to roll for detection, in the base game that it is now, unmodified.
Right.
When I go to roll for detection, I'm taking all of those ones to roll out. I can't take half of them and roll, hoping that if I miss, I have more to go. Because what happens is if you miss, you clear that pool out. So you're taking all the dice anyway.
Yeah.
Same thing with shooting.
But on the countermeasure side, I'm saying that you could maybe have 2 or 3 dice and just roll 1. So it gives you the option of not having to use the whole pool.
Well, again, at this point in time, as the game is written,
you would have to.
You're rolling all of the countermeasure dice at once.
Okay. And that just needs to be play tested and figure out what plays best and all of that. But yeah.
Sure.
So that, going back to luck, skill, you're now adding more friction. And I'm going to say that more friction requires more skill to overcome. And that's a very generic statement or basic statement, that the more friction that there is, that means I've got less options to do things, or I have more challenges, and that's going to, me as a player, either be more skillful or it introduces an option for more luck. Right?
Right.
Oh, I might lose everything here, but I got a 1 in 6 chance that I only lose half. So there's a lot of friction, but there's no skill in that. I'm just rolling the dice and I either win or I lose. So I guess my statement is a little non-factual, because more friction doesn't necessarily mean more skill. It opens the door for either or. And you as a designer can say, in this instance where I've added this friction, here are the ways that we're going to resolve this. And ideally, at least in my mind, you're going to come up with something that balances the luck and the skill even at that point. And if I haven't said it, that's what I try to do in my designs, is I don't mind some luck. I think having, as Hexy had said before, fog of war. I don't want to know. I don't want to know that every time I do something, I'm going to get a guaranteed result. To some degree. I mean, some things are obvious, okay? But I'm talking about rank and file, in the trenches, dice rolls in a game. I don't want everything to be rote. I don't want to know if I get 4 dice, boom, hit this, and you're done. I don't find that enjoyable. I like to have the friction. I like to be lucky or unlucky, because that makes moments. Go back to the game we were playing, a Fistful of Lead with Warmut. When I jumped over the wall with that scrub, pure luck. But I made that decision to do that. And you could argue, if I got lucky, it was a skillful move.
Well, the skill came in to taking the chance.
Yes.
The skill is making the decision. And in honesty, that is where that is, in a sense, what skill is you are making the skill is coming into making the decision. Let's talk about American football, and to the same extent English football or world football
or baseball, if we're going to get into statistics and making decisions to bat left or right.
Right, with let's say with football, the coach, okay, or even farther down.
Can I mute Warmut?
Yeah, right. Let's say in football, you've got a striker and you got a winger, right? And they're driving down to the goal, and defense is setting up. The striker's got the ball. He has to make a decision. The skill is being able to read what the defense is presenting to him as to whether to keep the ball and drive it to the net, or kick it out to his winger and repositioning himself to maybe get the winger to have the shot, or get kicked back to him once he's in position. That's where the skill comes in of, and of course the skill of actually putting foot to ball and getting it into the net. There's also luck there, because your oblong foot kicking a round ball, making it go from this direction to that direction. That there is some luck there also.
Oh, you watch enough sports, whether it's the pitcher, the guy hits a line drive up the middle that deflects off the pitcher to the first baseman who catches it in the air.
Yeah.
What skill is involved there? Well, obviously the first baseman has to be aware. The pitcher deflected it. That's not very skillful. It didn't get out of the way, right?
Or the pitcher catches that line drive ball that came right back to his face.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's not a whole lot of skill doing this.
Really?
That's a reaction.
I've known people that would just kind of stand there and not even flinch. That has nothing to do with skill, probably.
Yeah.
But back to a dumb decision comment. So,
but yeah, it's there's the skill comes in the decision. The luck comes in to, you're a scrub. This guy is, king of the hill. You're lucky to make a hit on him. Like
Jim Carrey said, at least
I got a chance. No, yeah, absolutely. It's luck and skill, in my opinion, go hand in hand.
They need to, in my opinion, and I think you agree, they need to, right? For me, a very fun game experience is where I get enough decisions that I can make a dumb decision that occasionally comes off, and that just makes
because you
your
got
game.
lucky.
Because I got lucky, but I put myself in a position. I created the opportunity for luck.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
I
skillfully created an opportunity for luck. There we go. I'm gonna go with that.
Oh yeah, that's 100%.
Excuse me. So I would imagine playing certain games. So let's talk solo games because one of the things that is a pet peeve of mine, and this is a total pet peeve. It's nothing to get worked up about, but when I see a game, and this happens mostly with solo games, where they go, okay, here's the standard version of the game, and then here's an advanced version. And a lot of times in the advanced version, they don't make the game skillfully harder, or they call it hard mode. They just make it more unlikely that you're going to pull the cards that you need, or they take dice away from you, or they change some of the base luck mechanics. And it just bothers me. And again, this is a pet peeve, so zone out. But when they say, oh, it's hard mode. No, it's unlikely mode. It's not hard mode.
Right.
Okay. Off my soapbox. I just had to get that out, especially in this topic, because it's like that's not hard. I know you struggle with it, but rolling dice is not hard.
It's not.
It's not skill at all. Keeping them on the table and not having your cat run off with them, that might involve a little skill. I've had that happen, but anyway. So
hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Talk amongst them. I'll be right back.
Okay. So I did in Discord, I put a link. If anybody in chat wants to pop on, say hi, show your face, add a little to the conversation, go ahead, jump on the link, and I'll bring you into the conversation with NotJay and myself here. So, and if you haven't, let me go to the Discord and put an invite into chat. So give me just a second, guys. Again, on the off chance that you haven't joined the Discord. Sorry for the pause. There we go. Excuse me. So any thoughts on how you guys, when you're designing your games, do you prefer more luck, less luck, dice? Do you use cards? What's your favorite mechanic for introducing luck and or skill into some of your designs? Why don't you throw that up in chat and we can discuss. 2:30 p.m. Friday here, and he's in the office. Well, thank you for joining us, boss. I appreciate that. And New Zealand, is that correct? I believe so. So I appreciate you taking the time to pop on. 2:30. So what does that put you? And it's Friday for you. So we're behind you. What time is it here? 7:30. I'm gonna have to do the math. 5, 7. That's a lot. Minus 7 minus 5. So what? 19-hour difference, something like that. I didn't know I had to do math tonight. So Vigilant, what was the game that you had put in the game jam? Did you do 1 or 2? I'm trying to remember. Ameritrash. I hate that term, Ameritrash, but that's being American. Maybe that's why. And it came from Europe, so yeah. Okay, Splendor card. So I'll talk with you offline, or we can talk here. I'd like to get a time frame to have you come on and join us and be able to talk about your game. I don't mind doing, waking up early my time and doing it live New Zealand time. And, it is what it is. And people can just watch or listen to the podcast after, or get up early and join in the conversation as well. So.
All right, I've returned. Sorry about that.
No problem. I was just talking to Vigilant. He's in New Zealand, by the way.
Yeah.
So I shared the Discord and just, I don't know if you heard, but invited people to hop on, and they're very shy. So nobody's taken us up on that yet. Okay, so we talked about running silent. Did you name your Iceland game?
No, I have not yet.
Oh, I'm glad Eric brought that up. Chit pull. So he says he likes to do cards and chit pull for luck mechanically usually. I'm kind of with you with the cards, Eric. And chit pull to me is a form of a small deck of cards.
Yeah, it is.
It's a different, obviously, physical mechanic, and it probably gives you a little different gameplay. But and maybe it's easier to maintain.
It's honestly no different than pick a card.
Yeah, to me, that's what that kind of looks like. Now, I guess when you're and then this might be a question for any of the publishers out there, but if I'm publishing a game that has cardboard counters, throwing in a handful more counters and making it chit pull makes sense, as opposed to having to introduce cards if your game doesn't have cards as another component, because that's going to add cost to the game. So yeah, you effectively can do chit pull in those type of games as opposed to cards. And if you're doing a card heavy game, then you can get the same effect by just putting that on your cards. It just says cards are good. You can do all kinds of different odds. The suits 1/4, the number, jokers, aces. Yeah, that's with just a standard deck of cards. And at some point, I'll do a deep dive on my Richthofen game. But the original version, the one that I'm pretty sure is the one that's on BGG, is 30 card deck for both players. And you burn through the cards. And each card you can do offensive maneuvers, defensive maneuvers, determine special events or special actions on the card. They're also used for determining damage and also for random number generation. So I do at least five different things off the top of my head, all on that card. And you've got 30 cards. And so when we're talking about friction and luck, depending on, you got 4 cards in your hand that you're playing with. And you might want to use one for your maneuvers offensively and save one for a defensive maneuver if somebody gets on your tail, and keep that in your hand and not use it for its other abilities. So you have a lot of player agency there. And the gameplay is very fast. 5 minutes for air combat. And so if somebody gets waffle stomped, I don't care. Pick it up, play again. It's a 5-minute game. So that's where, at least when I'm looking at when I'm designing with luck or skill, because most of my games are short in length, I don't spend a lot of time trying to balance the two. I work the design, I go for game experience, and again, unless it's completely out of whack, I don't want somebody not having a good time. That's why I say I design to game experience. And that's subjective, I know. But you can determine, if you're honest and play test your games a lot, you're going to see the honest reaction of those play testers. If you're paying attention, and you should be, and that's one of the reasons why you play test, is not just the rules, make sure they work, but also what kind of experience are those people getting playing your game. And if something isn't quite right, but again, short game plays well and the people enjoy it, I don't try to fix what that problem might be. It's on BGG. Give me a second. I'll go grab a link and put it in chat. Chris, you want to take the helm for a second, boss?
Sure. What I like about card activation, depending on, there's a couple of different ways of doing it. You can, like Fistful of Lead, just deals out a hand of cards, and then you go top to bottom, kings to deuces. Then there is World at War 85 has card activation where each card is representative of a unit or a company, as it were, or a battalion, whatever size you're working with there. And what they do with that is, for instance, let's say it's Americans versus Soviets, to differentiate between the doctrines where the Soviets are very strict. You do exactly as you're told, how you're told to do it, etc. Well, they get one card per formation, where the Americans are much looser, more able to what's a word I'm looking for? Self-govern, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
They get 2 cards showing to activate during each turn to show that they are a little more.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I'll answer.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Second when you're done.
But they also add in randomness of end of turn cards.
Okay.
So the first card gets dealt. Oh, it's a Soviet formation. Next card gets dealt. It's end of turn. Well, that doesn't end it. A second end of turn has to come up first. Then another Soviet comes up, and then the second end of turn. The Americans didn't get to go at all that turn. But what happens at this point in time is the Americans will now hold on to those 2 cards, and they don't get played until all of the units that did not yet activate this turn have gone.
Okay.
So you're not getting completely skunked the entire time, but for that one iteration,
right?
The Soviets got the advantage.
I think in situations like that, I'm okay with that. You don't want it to be long term or anything like that. But the flip side is, if you're the player that gets that advantage, it's fun, right? You get a hyper sense of, oh my God, I got to do a bunch of extra things in this particular round.
Right.
So to answer your question, X, the short games, and we're going to focus on Wargame because I've designed some non-war games that I keep short. And I'll answer that, even though that wasn't your question. Let me answer that, and I'll then get to your question. One of the reasons I try to design short board games, and being an hour and under, is I would go to a lot of meetups, and we go, a lot of people in San Diego go out, we go to a pub, we break out the games, we play, and I want to play multiple games in a night, and I might get 3 or 4 games in. So if I'm playing a game that takes an hour as opposed to all night, I can try a bunch of different flavors of games, and I can socialize potentially with different people. So when I design board games, I try to keep it into that time frame. With war games, it just turned out that the Richthofen game, because it was a 1v1, now I'm expanding it to add campaign style, where you can do some role playing and multiple missions, and some of that's on the channel. You can see some of the earlier missions I designed. But the link is for the game that I entered into a contest 20 odd years ago. It's 1v1. And so you're not going to have a 2-hour game of a dogfight. Now, if you're playing a miniature game, you might, but that's because you're navigating the rules and moving the miniatures and overthinking things. In this particular game, it's very quick and very fast, and so that's why it would be a short design. And what I want them to get out of it is a fun experience. When you're doing the air combat game, I got a lot of comments that people said, "Oh my God, it felt like I was in a dogfight." Whatever that means to them, because none of us have ever been. Well, speaking for myself, I've never been in a dogfight, so I wouldn't know what that feels like. But I tried to make it like you might experience in a movie. So something like that is short. Running silent, Chris's game, and I think a lot of the postcard games give you flavor, maybe give you a little introduction into the topic, and allow you to push counters around and get a resolution in a very short period of time for a lot of reasons. Life's going on. We don't have time to set up a mega game or even a 2-hour, 3-hour game. You could be traveling on a train and you break out your postcard game and you do a battle in an hour or 30 minutes, whatever the case may be. So you can socialize. And so I think it serves a purpose to give you an introduction into a conflict, because it can help teach without having to be a 4-hour or 4-week game, which those can offer a lot more as far as immersion. It's kind of a quick hit. I'm just going to go try this game. I'm going to play a little bit. I don't have a lot of time. Me and my buddy can sit down, have a beer, play a game, boom, and go do whatever we want to do. And I think that's where that niche of postcard games or short, quick playing games has a place within the broader scheme of things. I don't think they're necessarily better. There are some games that I like to play that I don't want the experience to be a 10-minute experience. I'd like it to be for an hour or 2 hours or whatever the case may be. But when I'm designing, or when I designed Richthofen, initially it was a full-on collectible card game with 400 cards. And I took it to AEG, who I became friends with the AEG people when they had produced L5R, which I would argue is a war game, by the way. And they basically said, "Hey, we don't do war games," although I think L5R is a war game. But they weren't going into that market. They were going into the collectible card game market with L5R. And they said, take the core combat mechanic and strip it down to that if you want to take what you've built and make a game. And that's exactly what I did. Is I ripped out the maneuver system, submitted that into the game design contest, and that's what ended up on BGG. So that's kind of a quick hit on the history of that. But the intent, introduction to the topic, short, get in, get out, play, have fun, and game experience would be my answer. Sorry to be so long-winded, boss, but
it took longer than most of your games take to play.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a shot at it from the miniature game concept. Is that in most cases, when people get together to play a miniature war game, they're at either a club night or they're at a game store where you've got a finite amount of time to play the game in. Because you're in a public location. Also, a lot of the games are what's what I'm looking for. They're geared for tournament play.
Uh-huh.
So, in a tournament, of course, you need to have multiple games. So, you need to have a conclusion within 3 to 4 hours. That's how I got back into gaming. Not that I liked it, but it was the easiest way for me to be able to get 3 games in an afternoon.
Uh-huh.
We would start at about 10 o'clock in the morning. The first session would be 3 hours, so we'd go like 10 to 1. Actually, we'd probably like start at 9, so it was 9 to noon. Then you'd take an hour break for lunch, and you'd play then 1 to 4, and then about 30 minutes and to an hour, and then you'd play 5 to 8.
Yep.
So you got 3 games between 9 a.m. and 8 p.m. with 2 1-hour breaks. So it's miniature games are designed because of the constraints of where and how most people play. Now, if you're a home, if you play at home, or you play solo at home like Charles does, you can set stuff up and you can leave it up all you want.
Yeah. See, that's and going back to what Hex had said, and yeah, he's more a fan of the bigger games, longer playing games, and I am a bachelor as well, except I have 2 little furry gremlins that don't allow me to lay out the big games. I have DAC 2, and at some point I'm going to make a table to put DAC 2 on, and I will set it up and play it however long it takes. And now it won't be the only game I play, but I need a place to lay that puppy out. So there is a piece of me that wants that experience of completing an epic game. That's a game experience I want to have. And again, for me as a designer, game experience is important. And like I said, it's subjective, but you can get a feel. I have an idea of the types of things that Chris likes. So I know if him and I were to get together and I opened up a box of Star Wars miniatures and Fistful of Lead and some IPAs from San Diego. Now, he might not like the IPAs, but we'd have a fun afternoon because I know that that's the gaming experience that he's going to enjoy doing. And as a designer, as you start to find your niche in the style of games you design, again, you just look at it from a gaming experience, and short games and long games offer different experiences. And so, and again, going back to luck and skill, I like to be able to play a game that has just enough luck to mitigate my lack of skill. When I'm playing somebody that's got a lot of skill, I need a little bit of luck to at least make that a fun environment. Speaking of the man.
Sorry, it took me a few minutes to find. I was looking at my Discord, like, I don't have freaking Hissy's Discord in here. Why not? I do now. Yeah, I mean, everything you all said was awesome, and I think what I was going with that question was where you went is fun because, all right, obviously knowing what I like to play, if you're telling me I'm going to fight the Battle of the Bulge in 10 minutes, you lost me. Yep. Because what is Hexy's not going to get nothing out of that.
Oh, nobody would, right? And that 10-minute Bulge game? No.
Yeah. Well, you can tell me I'm going to fight the Battle of the Bulge, but here's the map. Here's all the units that were there. But here's the objective. Kill 10 units, and you're done in 10 minutes. All right, I get that picture.
Yeah.
That was where I was going with the question.
It was a fair question. And again, with the air combat game, it's in the one that was air quote published, it's 1v1. And it's a 30-card deck, and you sit down and bang, 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 and you go back and forth. There's a lot of decisions, a lot of stuff, and you shoot somebody down. Now, I actually have a buddy that's played me like 10 or 12 times, and I've shot him down every single time. So I won't play him anymore because I don't want to ruin my perfect record against him.
I like that with that idea. I love that where, okay, you know what? Take you a couple of Sopwith camels, go to a bar with some buddies, play a shoot 'em up game in 15, 20 minutes. Now, I get something out of because I'm just flying around trying to knock out the enemy.
Yeah, so, it's a simple objective, right? And I think your example of Battle of the Bulge, could you get a good enough representation playing a 10-minute version?
Nah,
I'm never going to say no because somebody will surprise me and do it.
But yeah.
I'm going to say probably not. But if you wanted to talk about maybe the first day of the Bulge or a certain action pushing a bridge, you might be able to do that in a 20-minute game, right? So this is a small component of the Battle of the Bulge. There is this Panzer unit trying to get to this bridge. You got to get your units there, defend the bridge, whatever, and you got a limited time that you're going to play that. I think those would make for get you interested in the conflict without having to do the full, 5-day or 7-day, however long the Bulge was. Don't hate me for not having that exact time frame, but
it's pretty much over after about 8 or 9 days.
Yeah, a long week, right? But yeah, you're not going to do that, in my opinion. You're not going to do that in 10 minutes, and that deserves to. Okay, take it with a grain of salt. Deserves a longer format, which I know that's what you just absorb, right? You live and breathe these long games. In fact, that's what we see on your table right now. Is that the Napoleonic game from?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have my camera turned on to my face.
That's
what you all were talking about cards earlier, cards and stuff like that. And eventually I'm going to do my review on this. These have got to be the best card, of a hex encounter game, the best cards for a solo bot that I've seen in any game.
And now, again, this is the Lock and Load's Napoleonic game, right?
Yeah, the one that's in print right now. That's
I got to get this puppy.
Well, it's not released yet. It'll be a couple months.
Okay,
but I'm telling you, it's going to be worth it.
Okay, Devin, if you're still on, that's on my want list. Cool. So, have you played many? Let me back up. Have you played any of the postcard games? Not to put you on the spot. Just the concept is printing them and all that's just too much.
I had that Civil War one that came in one of my ATO games.
Okay.
But I'm not gonna lie to you. So actually, I had 2 copies of the same game, 2 different games, obviously, that I got them from. But I opened it. The first one, I thought, I don't have anybody to send a postcard to, so I threw it in the trash. And then when I opened up another game, matter of fact, when I got Look Away, and I opened it up, and that game was there, I was like, oh shit, this is a game. I told you a million times with you playing like the book games and stuff. That's my first experience seeing that stuff.
Oh, really? I did not know that. It didn't
strike me as, I put it this way. The only gaming I knew that was in a magazine, other than your hex encounter strategy and tactics and stuff,
right,
years ago, was the little solo Dungeons and Dragons scenarios you could play out of a magazine.
Right. Well, I used to play a lot of Tunnels and Trolls. That was kind of my solo game, and I still got stacks and stacks of those books. But that's funny. You just kind of, I don't have anybody I can go postcard to and throw it away. Wow.
I probably got a dozen I'm laying around here. Just don't know what they are.
So the solo bot, you want to take a couple of, if you can. I don't know if you're under wraps on talking about this.
No. I've shot videos and everything. Yeah, I mean, this is one of the. So I started to use solo bot, then I stopped because I wanted to move the game along faster. Then I said, no, let me go back, and it doesn't really slow you down. But the thing is when you're firing individual units. Like if you're firing the artillery or an infantry regiment or something or whatever, you're going to pull a card for the AI to help determine the target. And I don't know if these are going to be good enough. I'm not using my Brio. But if you're in a fire segment, it gives you a priority of targets to shoot at.
Oh, okay.
And then movement priority depending on what kind of mode you're in. And then if you're going to close on somebody and get in there and close assault, which in this game is not necessarily melee combat, it's just close in shooting.
Okay.
It helps you choose your targets. And then you have leader cards that'll tell you, you rolled the die. I rolled the dice a minute ago. I said, you know what? The French need to win this initiative. And they did. Or I'm sorry, they didn't. And then I'm playing the British and the Portuguese as the AI. And then you flip over a commander's card randomly. And that commander's card, when you're doing orders, will tell you, French get to move first. And I'm like, sweet. The French from this scenario now. So, but I mean, these little cards will cover. And then the one thing they did that I don't remember seeing in too many other games is they built in a default action if you're on the defense or on the offense that didn't have, like if none of the 3 priorities were met, if they didn't exist, there was a default action that you fell back to. Like if you're on the defense, hold position, that kind of stuff. But I mean, they covered every aspect. And of course, they even tell you in the designers that you still got to use some mental thought sometimes if something just doesn't make sense. So what do? They took the leader's cards and they gave the leader a rating of moderate, aggressive, or cautious.
Oh, I like that.
And then you can say, well, he's a cautious leader. Yeah, we're supposed to attack, but he would have to.
You know what? I love that. So it's kind of suggested AI for the human when you have to kind of referee a situation. It gives you some guidance.
Yeah, if something just doesn't look. I mean, like, look, if the right flank of the French is collapsing, and I got a brigade sitting over here that I draw a card that, I'm like, I know they're going to break if I go in there. And they're in the proper mode. They're in an attack mode, but I draw a card that doesn't say get in there and fight.
Right.
That's where you make that decision. No, come on. They're
that makes sense.
200 yards away from him. They got to see him running.
So if you were playing an ACW game and it said attack with McClellan, you're going to be like, no.
I'm saying
he doesn't do that.
No, McClellan will want their boots shined and give them all water in their pancakes first. Yeah, I mean, you've got to use, there's a point where you've just got to use common sense decision making, and I like that because I don't remember games in the rule. Granted, I haven't played everything in the world,
right?
But the ones that I have, I don't remember the rules saying, "Look, if that damn thing don't make sense, apply what would make sense in that situation to what your action is." Now, you really want to play a challenge. You play the Civil War Brigade series from MMP or the Gamer. Or you play the Regimental Sub-Series, where you have to write your orders down and you have to stick to those orders until you've completed whatever that mission is, whatever that order is, or you get changed orders. And that will go to show you what the Civil War was like. And they put in a system in there that if you have a good leader that's under orders and you told him to march to this intersection and prepare to be engaged or to attack or whatever, this other Confederate regiment or whatever, and he gets there, and those guys, the Confederates, didn't go there. They went somewhere else. Well, the leaders are evaluated well enough that when you can change their orders, but if he's a bad leader, he might be too cautious to say, no, that general told me to go here. I'm going to go here.
Exactly.
The leader might see a flank on another enemy unit and say, nope, we're changing and getting after it.
So rolling kind of some of that conversation into the skill luck angle, if you're doing so, you get a bad card that is plausible but unlucky, you're going to play it. But if it's just unlucky and unplayable, then you're going to have the card give you some guidance to say he's cautious or aggressive or whatever the case may be, and you can adjust that. We're talking about skill of the AI here because that's where you're trying to, as a designer, design something in to guide the player to play the generals. Not historically accurate, but a simulation of their behavior to at least influence how the game plays. I like that.
Yeah. Give you some options. And we say it all the time. You guys have said it tonight. I've listened to it about hold on. About I said dice rolls or luck equals fog of war.
Yeah.
I might say the word sometimes, but I never, like if I roll 3 6s in a row, I might laugh and say, God, how lucky can you be? But in my brain, it's not luck at all. It's fog of war. Those 3 regiments all fired a 6, top of the chart. You know what? Hey, maybe they were just under good command. They were just good with their muskets or their rifles, and that's the way it happened.
It happens like that sometimes, right? I mean, we see it all the time. I bring up sports. We see it all the time. How many times a guy hit a line drive down the line, and is it fair or foul? Fair or foul? Right. And it's luck and skill, right? Because you do that so often that it's plausible that it could be fair. And you rolled that 1 on a 12, and it was a fair ball. Well, yeah, to your point, a gamer might look at that and say it's lucky, but when you understand what the game you're simulating, you go, no, that's very plausible. And it may have only happened 1 in 12 times or whatever the odds are, but it does happen. And that's why it's in the game.
Right.
So let me ask you, when you're playing the longer games, which I know you've got a lot of experience doing, I made the comment that when you play shorter games, I don't really worried too much about balance and catch-up mechanics and things like that. How do you see that in a longer playing game? Is it really where the skill really comes into play when you're playing a game that you might spend 6 to 12 hours to 2 weeks on, or whatever the case may be? Does skill trump luck in the long play games?
Well, yeah, I mean, it goes up and down. It's like I think the biggest thing that I get out of when I'm playing a long game, of course, playing solo, it's always, I know what I'm going to do.
Right.
So that's like to me, that's the biggest challenge there is knowing what you're going to do on the other side. But is to see okay, well, in a big game, how the battlefield constantly changes. How 1 minute, oh man, I got a great attack going over here, but then I flipped over the other side, and after an hour and a half, I stunned that attack. But at the same time, I'm back on the other side, I decided to move around this way. And just to watch that battlefield, and you know what, just because I know what I'm going to do from one side to the other, doesn't necessarily mean I can react to it properly.
Right.
Not right away. So
you have more opportunity for luck. And I would assume that the luck is not has the same effect on a short game, right? I mean, if we're playing poker and we've got that pot and I get that winning hand, boom, I win, and done and dusted. Where I could still walk away from that table at the end of the night down $2,000 because
right,
I just played poorly all night, even though I got lucky and hit that one pot.
Okay, all right. So you're playing Texas Hold'em, all
Mhm.
right, and you got lucky that fourth flip card you got filled out your freaking full house or whatever, all right, or your straight or whatever. All right, you were nowhere near it, but that river card gave it to you. All right. So to me, in playing cards, that's luck because you're not the one that drew it. It was the dealer that threw it to you. All right. But now take that game and turn it into a war game, and that river card just became Fog of War.
Exactly. I 100% agree. And so in a longer play game, how often do you play against humans? I know you do a lot of solo and
yeah, I'm a solo gamer. I think the last one I did was, I'm hopefully going to be doing one next week with a buddy of mine.
Cool.
But, the Shenandoah, the wilderness game that I've been test playing.
Okay.
Played with a group 2 or 3 times with that one there. I'm too antsy to stand around a table for 8 hours an hour. I just can't do it.
I know. You know what? At least you are self-aware and you don't put yourself in that situation to create a bad experience for somebody else and besides yourself.
Oh, I have fun when I'm doing it. It's just that I know Jeffy wants to go home to his table and play his games.
Right. Yeah. I get it. Alrighty, guys. Hexy, thank you so much for jumping in. You know, your input is always valuable, and I appreciate it very much.
My pleasure.
NotJay,
Yes.
any final words for this week? Anything going on in your channel we should know about? And same with you, Hex. After Chris is done, you can enlighten.
Probably not gonna have a paint and chat on Saturday, and probably not gonna have a offline Discord chat tomorrow night. I got some friends coming into town for the weekend, and we're gonna be playing some X-Wing and some what do you call that card game?
Uno?
No, not card game. Car game.
Car Wars?
It's the damn it.
Death Race 2000.
Yeah, something like that. It's the one from Osprey. It's the blue book from Osprey. Gaslands. That's it.
Gaslands. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to be doing this
Give
weekend.
me an AAR because I was a big Car Wars fan.
Yeah, I've
Jack,
never played
I played the
Gaslands
heck out of
before,
that.
so this will be interesting to see. I played Car Wars. Oh God, 25 years ago.
Oh, dude, I built freeways with a clover and oh my God, I went into that and I had so much fun. But anyway, but what's next up on the channel this next coming week or so? Any unboxings we should be looking for, or just more building the Texas?
More of the Texas. Yeah, more of the Texas. I'm going to be studying up on how to play Con Sonar, which is a Cold War sub game that's free to download on Facebook.
Well, I think Running Silent, after tonight talking about it, we got to get that puppy play tested. And I'm going to be honest, that's a KDP book in my head.
Yeah. So,
does anybody submit? Because I haven't seen the list. Has anybody submitted? I mean, this is probably going to be a dumb question. I could be wrong.
No.
Anybody submitted any tactical military type games?
Tactical.
Or even operational. I mean, for that matter.
Oh, yeah. So let me take a second here. I'll share this screen, and I can show you real quick what some of the games are. Give me a second here. Okay. You guys see that?
Yep.
Okay, so what we've got here is, well, I'm not going to go into the descriptions of all of them, but you've got a sub game. This one's pretty cool. This is where you run around as a medic. Okay. So tactical. The Narrows, this was actually picked up and made into a larger game. And you have the Battle of Britain. So this is your example of the bulge. So here's a Battle of Britain that probably pays in a matter of minutes.
Scroll up one more row. Scroll up one row. What's that over to the Flanders thing to the right? Okay. Well, I mean, that's a hex encounter, it looks like from here.
Oh, yeah, no, there's a ton of hex encounter games. Yeah, there's quite a few hex encounter games in here. Okay, so this is the one from David Thompson, but it's not a hex encounter. Well, the very first one submitted, here we go, Postcards. This is a hex encounter game.
Rivoli.
Okay, so you've got these sections here, and I think this may have been the redone art. He had Niels Johansson do the art. I thought he had. Okay, so let me just download this real quick, and I'll open it. You can see it's got the counters. It's an area control type map.
Right.
So can you see that okay? So this is an actual Napoleonic battle, and you got your French troops over here, and these are kind of chits that you rotate around that give you actions. It's a very
you need to change your view.
Oh, sorry. What am I doing here? Okay, so let me present. Let's stop. Still learning this, guys. Sorry. Share the screen.
I'm on vacation until June 5th, so
not to brag or anything.
No.
Yeah.
Yes, I could do something like that.
Yeah, so this is a Napoleonic game. You've got, let me zoom up a little bit. So basically you see these areas here that are, so you got artillery. So this is area 10. So basically you've got these avenues that you can be attacked in 4 different locations on this particular one. Let me minus this. So like area 8 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 areas that can be attacked. And this is where you put your reserves. So you take your units and you place them in one of these fronts.
Right.
Or in the reserve area. And then when you attack, the game is resolved through flipping coins, heads or tails. And depending on the number of heads and tails that you get, determine the outcome. I think it's on the back side of the game. But so these are the counters, which are, give you pips. This is your health and what they can actually do. So, and based on what you have here with these blue cards, you have them in front of you. And on the back side, they're yellow. Okay, so they're for both sides. And basically, I can activate, when we were talking about friction, I play one of these cards, and this says I can activate my first core and my sixth core. So I look where they're at on the board, and then they get actions. They can attack, they can move, they have a number of different things they can do. And then you flip coins to determine if you've forced a retreat or taken a step loss on the enemy. And so this is very much a hex encounter game. It's just small, and I don't want to call it area control, but it's kind of a non-traditional.
Right. You're still moving through areas. But you're just not. This is probably more destroy your opponent type area movement.
Very much. And it goes back to this is a very specific battle. And in fact, right here, you notice there's a river.
Right.
And you can put units here like they showed up historically on this side of the river, and all they did was harass Napoleonic troops by firing across the river. They didn't actually have much effect on the game. But he put them in there because he wanted to represent it, because it happened in the battle, and he wanted to give the players the option of, hey, you're going to have units here, and you notice they can't really move and get out of there. So if you're playing the French and you're anywhere close to them, they're going to take shots at you. So it's just a little flavor thing, and the guy fit this into a postcard size game. So there are a number of them. I did pick its charge, but
I saw that up there in the scroll down.
Yeah, and that's just a push. It's not a push your luck game. You're just moving from obviously one side of the board to the other, and you just want to get the Confederate troops to the wall. And if you can push the Union troops off the wall, you win. I kept it simple, and it uses a deck of cards to do. But let me get back here, and I'll go ahead and close that. So yeah, I mean, if you're looking for something along those lines, there are some hex and counter type of games. Cool. So what's going on your channel next week or so? You're going to be on vacation, so it sounds like you might get a lot.
Yeah, well, I'm going to play. I want to wrap up this scenario, which I played 6 turns this evening already in this thing. I just sat here and I was grinding. It's funny because usually when I sit down and play this, it's so damn late at night that I might get a turn in. But I started earlier today, and I've knocked out 6 or 7 turns already. So I'm just now hit the turn where the French can turn and run off the map and win the game.
Oh, okay.
And then on the next turn, the British get a bunch of flanking forces, massive amount of forces that come in right here, and the French are exiting right there. So this is going to be real. And then once this is done, this is coming off the table in the big game, and I'm going to start learning the advanced rules, 2 different sets of advanced rules they have.
Mm-hmm.
And then over here on this table, I've got SPI's Ney versus Wellington that I'm going to.
Oh, dude, you're totally getting into your Napoleon.
But guess what's going to follow that?
What's the de facto Napoleonic game?
No.
No?
ACW. We talked about it the other night.
ACW. Okay.
You got Gettysburg coming up.
I was going to say Gettysburg is coming up soon, right?
Gettysburg 77.
Oh, you're going to play it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to try to get after the advance. My buddy's bringing me a second copy.
Okay.
This the guy I think I'm going to play something this weekend with, or this week. We're going to play like one of those Blind Swords games.
Uh-huh.
And he's going to bring me the Ardennes quad for free.
Oh, nice.
From SPI. Ever since I played that Napoleon War, I'm like, damn it, now I want all of the darn SPI quads, which are like pulling teeth to find anymore. So
yeah, but that's how we are. You get a taste and you want it all.
Well, he's going to bring me a user's copy. And then, of course, in July, the big GBACW, GCACW is going to be up at Gettysburg for an entire week. So I'm going to spend 3 or 4 days, or I'm going to spend at least 2 days going back and forth.
Okay. It's not going to happen this year, maybe next year, the following year. I'm going to make my way out there. I want to go to Gettysburg, and I do. I'm hitting you up. And
yep, by all means.
Yeah.
Love the place.
I want to go there. I want to see it. And I just find it very interesting that it's July 1, 2, and 3, and then we have July 4th. It just
stay away from Gettysburg in the beginning of July. Dude, I went up there on July 1st one day, took off a day from work, told the boss I want to go to Gettysburg. All I want to do is go look at the first day of the field. I drove up there. I came in on 30 coming through the first day's battlefield, and it looked like, You know how you go to a 4-year-old or 5-year-old soccer game and they just move around like a big bumblebee?
Yeah.
It looked like there were 50 groups of 1,000 people each doing that on the first day's battlefield. So I pulled into where Lee's headquarters was, backed out, and drove back home.
There's still something about being at Gettysburg during those 3 days that's just got to be.
Well, if you're into seeing all the, all the reenactors will be everywhere. Every tour guide that has a license to be at Gettysburg is going to be there. Every historian's going to be there.
Yeah.
And people from all over the world. I mean, if you like that,
yeah.
But Uncle Sam made me work in very, very small formations. So I'm not really, really good. Unless it's a hockey game, I'm not really good with big crowds.
Hey, is there a local team for you hockey-wise?
Capitals.
Is it local?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure where you're located and where the Capitals are.
I'm in the Eastern
An
Panhandle.
hour from Washington, D.C.
An hour? Okay, that's not too bad. That's local enough. That's local enough. Okay, so now we know what's going on his channel. Yeah, Gettysburg's coming up. So you know what? I'm going to have to get that game clipped. I have it out. I started on it. Let me get it clipped and at least start playing the basics.
Yeah, get on it. And I'm going to start, like I said, I already played the medium game a couple years back. It's like extremely easy.
Yeah, but I got to meet your challenge at doing the advanced game. So I got to work myself through the basic stuff and get the medium stuff down, and then and tackle that. So
right,
I'll make sure that the July 1 through 4 or 3, whatever, I'm gonna earmark that for doing the exact same thing, Gettysburg 77. And maybe I'll throw it up as a.
We would be freaking heroes of the internet if we could actually play that game. You saw the guy that's doing it. He was doing like hour or turn by turn. He's got
I found a guy the other day that was doing that.
It's got like 32 turns he's played.
Yes. He subscribed to my channel, and I went, and anybody that subs to the channel, if they've got, I look, and sometimes they'll say, oh, they've got 20 subscribers or whatever, and some of them are just friends and family. This guy had a few more than that, and I went, oh, let me go check him out. And all I saw was Gettysburg 77. So I started watching a couple of the videos. So I had to go back to the beginning because I was completely.
I watched a video that he shot that was like 30 some minutes long. And I was like, okay, I see what he's doing. And then as a few days later, I was looking, I saw, oh, here's part 2 of that. And I turned on part 2. I was like, well, nothing moved. And he went for another 40 minutes. And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about with this game. It's, people say it's, everybody talks about campaign for North Africa. Well, I got news for you. This one here it's a beast, apparently.
Okay. So why don't we do this? Let me get to that challenge, get that done, get the advanced game. And then maybe you and I can do a collab where we maybe on TTS or something, Vassal, play a game, or because I can't lay it out for long with the kiddies, but I can do that online. I don't know if you like to play those style of games, but maybe sometime next year, maybe.
Yeah, I don't see why not. I'm sure it's going to take me a while to get into the rules.
Oh, it's going to take me a while too, boss. Yeah.
But I got to do it. I've had that game forever.
Yeah. Cool.
Hey, good stuff, guys. I'm gonna run from you all though.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna close it down. Thanks again for popping in. I appreciate it. As always, co-pilot. Chris, you make this happen. Can't tell you how much I appreciate you, boss. Thanks again.
Hey, I can talk about anything for a long time.
Well, now I've got Ryszard's game that I want to play with, and re-engineer. Now I've got silent running and your mechanics. Everybody's giving me stuff to do. My brain is going off the hooks. Anyway, guys, as always, I appreciate you taking time to check out what we do on the channel. I'll just close it with that. I don't have any fancy saying other than I'll see you in the next one. And goodbye. Good night for now. Bye, guys.
Take care.